Well, thank you for staying with us. The Nigerian real estate market in the last few years has rapidly expanded and is recording exponential growth, steadily increasing foreign direct investments, fast urbanization, and strong corporate demands. In the wake of the recent pandemic, the Nigerian real estate sector was one of the worst hit sectors as the impact radically altered the industry's long-term expectations. As the Nigerian economy experiences a rebound, the real estate sector is still faced with numerous challenges impeding growth across its value chain, such as access to finance, regulatory and commercial bottlenecks, amongst others. Well, despite a range of pressing challenges, Nigeria's real estate sector is set to continue expanding in the future, albeit at a slower pace than over the past decade. However, industry experts have called on the government to focus more on the real estate sector, which has great potential for economic growth with multiplier effects on other areas of development, including job creation, health and well-being, manufacturing and environmental development. Well, I introduced him earlier. He's joining me live already in the studio to have a chat on these very important issues affecting the real estate sector. He's a managing director, chief executive officer of Boundless Multi-Services Solution Nigeria Limited, Dr. Jonathan Idowu. Dr. Idowu, good afternoon, and thank you so very much for your time.
Thank you very much.
It's great to have you in the studio. I want to start with this question. It's always very common. We talk about housing deficit in Nigeria.
Yeah.
And I don't know, you are more of an expert in the sector. We hear of 18 million, 20 million, 25. With these figures, I keep hearing them year in, year out.
Yeah.
Now, take us through what we face as a country, or what you think is the correct figure, and what's your assessment of Nigeria's housing industry at the moment?
Well, statistically, up to now, nobody has been able to determine the actual figure, because the figure keeps rising every day, because we have a lot of people migrating from the rural areas to the urban areas, so it keeps making the figures rise. Then you have youths that usually stay with the parents, opting out to be on their own. So with all these things, it makes the figure not static. It's on the rise always. So this is one of the reasons why the figure has not been stable. Now, the Nigerian real estate market is, the government has not been able to provide any sound solution to this, because the government has a way of the provisions they have in place. They didn't have all the necessary things to be able to manage this. So I think a public-private partnership that is well detailed will be able to solve this, because as real estate practitioners, for instance, we in Boundless, we have a way of trying to create our own parts in order to reduce this housing deficit. So also our other real estate developers, but in all, we also have our shortcomings too, that has not been able to make us perform optimally. But I believe with the collaboration with the government, it can go a long way to resolve this.
Before I move on, but many people believe that housing practitioners or professionals, developers and all of that like you are very rich people. That is one perception people have. They believe that you're so rich, you have lands, you have all of that. So if that business is really not so creative as we expect, so why is everybody going into it? I would love to live talking here and go to and have one site somewhere and build something and also make my money.
Well, the truth is, the Nigerian real estate market is a market that is very large. That's a big opportunity that is yet to be tapped into. The truth is, anybody going to real estate in Nigeria can become rich through it. But you see, there are some other business secrets to it which most people don't understand. The truth about this also is the fact that we have a lot of branding that is being added to it. So at times, what you are actually seeing being projected is not entirely what it is, but it doesn't remove the fact that it's a market that is very lucrative and one can grow well through it.
Good. I like that. So we're able to. So my plan B, like they talked about, plan B can be getting into housing business. Okay, noted. Now let's move on. Talking housing deficit. Housing is capital intensive.
Sure.
It's real money, you know. So you talked about public-private partnership. Are we doing well with that in Nigeria? Are we taking advantage of that at all in Nigeria?
Well, the truth there is, like I said earlier, it would have been a good ground for the government to be able to reduce this deficit we're talking about, but because it is not, the partnership has not really worked out well, because we have had developers that created they have gone out to source for this fund, build this with the intent that the government is going to back it up, or the government actually gave a go ahead, and then when it's now time to make collections of fund, the government is holding back the fund. So this kind of developer is stuck on that particular project, while he ought to have gotten money to move into another project. So the partnership thing is not really working per se. Then you also look at the banks are also supposed to make this easy, but you see, the rigors of obtaining funds in order to make this happen is actually very difficult. That's why currently a lot of real estate companies are already going to what we call crowdfunding. That is, like for instance in Boundless, you have individuals who reach out to, we create a form of real estate investment package. You give us money, after a while you get back your money with a good interest on your money, telling you that your money can actually create more value for you when you invest it in real estate. So when such money comes, we use it to create this development, and as we now create a pattern of sales for the consumers, which as they begin to pay either on outright basis or on installment basis, they are able to recoup back this money and pay back investors. So it is, we developers on our own, we are trying as much as possible to make it work out, but like I said, the bodies that are supposed to make the public-private partnership work out are not really helping much.
All right, moving on. COVID-19 pandemic. I spoke to my guest earlier. We're talking about foreign direct investment, and she told me how COVID has given them a big hit. Now, what about your sector? How did it affect your sector? All of the lockdowns. I'm sure everything was a standstill because you won't be able to bring your workers together. Tell us how that season was. The
COVID experience is an experience nobody anticipated, and it actually affects so many people in our industry, because the foreign direct investment we're supposed to get, especially Nigerians in diasporas in some of these countries that are the worst hits, funds that are supposed to come into the country to help in real estate development is not forthcoming. So people that had the intention, that have already said, okay, see, we are interested in your properties, we want to start paying and all that, suddenly everybody is holding back his fund because of this. So the real estate sector is has been hit seriously, because the things we were projecting that we would have been able to achieve by this time has been slowed down by the COVID experience.
Honestly speaking, then when we talk about your line of trade, another thing that comes to my mind is land. Land issues. How easy has it been? One time there was the Omonile thing, but I think Lagos is trying to address that. But how has it been with issues around land registration and all of that?
Well, recently, the Lagos State government, I think about 2 days ago, REDAN, that is Real Estate Developers Association of Nigeria, had a meeting with Lagos State government as regards fast-tracking the process of land documentations and all that. About 3 weeks ago, too, the same thing happened in Ogun State. But basically, you see, when it comes to dealing with Omonile, for some of us, we now have this experience. We now have a better system we have been able to create in relating with them. We discovered that Omonile, as most people think, they are not ghosts. They are just people that you just need to strike a good understanding with them, and then you discover that you are able to run your business seamlessly. So for us in Boundless, one of the key things that we have been able to do that has helped us is, before we even start selling any land to the public, we first do our due diligence. we want to check the part of government in that land, because there are some land that are either under acquisition or under commitment. Now, if government has been removed off the land, then we ask who are the owners, and you can trace this through the bales, the obas of those communities, and they bring both the prodigal child of the family and the real children of the family together, and then a meeting is held, and then a deal is struck, and then payments is done. Then everything works seamlessly. Some of these leaders we've been able to turn them to even security on site, that when they see any strange fish on site, they have to call, are you aware anybody is coming to your site, and all that. So it is just what we've been able to work on. And the government, the truth is, the government is actually coming up recently to see how they can help us fast track the process, because a lot of us, our funds are tied down because you're trying to work out this, and there are so many rigorous exercises to pass through in order to make it work out.
So what about issues around fraud and corruption? Yes, I know you're more of a how do I explain it? Your class in this seems a little, but when you talk about even the developers and all of that, we hear all of this fraudulent activities where people get money from people, they cannot get their houses, they can't even find those kind of people again. So as I'm sure you have an association, or maybe how you work together, how do you check excesses of your members? Sharp practices. How do you do that?
You know, prior to this time, REDAN, that is the current body we have that is out to bring real estate developers together, and they harmonize how we do things. I've been a body that is working independently without much support from the government. So, but recently the government is trying to partner with us. Of late, there was an agreement with EFCC. There's a part of EFCC, we call them SCUMOL, that is the Special Control Unit for Money Laundering. And they have a partnership with REDAN in order to checkmate, okay, you pass through a process for you to register or even an account in the bank. Then you see the LASFERA, which is a body recently created by the Lagos State government too. We are working together in order to make sure that we are able to bring out the bad eggs among us. And you see, the reason why it's like that is so many people, out of greed, they have more subscribers than the unit they have. But in Boundless, we have been able, we tell people the way it is. We make sure that whoever is, when a particular place is sold off, we tell them it's sold off, we are moving into the next phase. And this way, we are able to carry our customers along such that they don't have reasons to be faced with such. We have customers that have bought the land for over 2 years and they've not come back. They only call to check up, and their land is still there. And we only created a system such that their plots are being serviced so that it doesn't make the estate bushy.
Okay, we're moving on now. Still staying with sharp practices. I'm also looking at incompetent builders and contractors. You now see low quality houses. What about all of this? Are you also checking that so that houses that are built meet standards?
Well, we are checking that, and then we're trying to work with government bodies that actually are meant to building control agencies of government that are actually meant to checkmate this thing. Though the truth is, if government can play its part well in this, we have less of that. The reason is because people, for instance, a developer that asked a customer to pay a certain amount to help him build. Now the cost of building material is double the price. Now, because the developer is asking the customer for more money, and the customer is saying, no, I have paid and all that. Yeah. So in order to want to satisfy the customer, the developer will now want to cut corners by trying to mix up things, and at the end of the production becomes substandard. So if government can play its part in order to checkmate this, because the way things are on the rise is alarming. Cement, iron roads and all these things. So if this can be checkmate, then even the building control agencies will be able to play their parts well. Then you will be able to reduce substandard building.
That would be a very good one, because it's very, 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 very important. Because I look at government, you see, just a little background. I was checking it out, that even out of the budget for the year, 3.22 trillion proposed capital expenditure, works and housing got about 12.42%, which is the highest, 404.64 billion. I don't know how far this can get to. Are you even seeing our budgeting for housing? Are we doing well, or we need to do better?
Well, the truth about the budgeting is, it's recently, like I think the last statistics, which was before the COVID, shows that the housing sector is, I think, the fourth contributor to the economy of Nigeria. So in that light, it means that the government is beginning to recognize the importance of that sector, hence that little increase that has been done. But I think the government needs to do more. It's not enough. But if the government can do more, then it becomes very easy for this thing to work out. Because the truth is, there are great potentials in this industry, especially in the Nigerian market.
Let's now look at, before almost finally now, issue of also taxes and all of that, levies. Does it affect your kind of business? Sometimes you have problems with government for the taxes and levies.
Of course. Government, the truth is, when you... most of us as developer, because our customers, when you ask them to buy a property and you're asking them to still pay VAT on such, it becomes a turn off.
Yes,
so we've most of us have come up with the idea of saying, okay, let's build the cost in the price. So when we are mentioning the price, just tell you the price straight, and then you know the Nigerian system, we always want to negotiate and argue the price. At the end of the day, arrive at something. Then from whatever we have been able to do, that's where we create the tax and then pay back. And but the government has not been, they've been pushing. Because it looks as if that's one of after the fall in oil prices, that's another way they feel they can generate more income. So the push on taxes is heavy on us, but we are managing it.
So what more do you think Nigerians need to know about the real estate sector? What more positives do you think they need to hear about?
Well, one of the major positives is it's still one of the best investment anybody can do. And you see, regardless of what your income level is, you can always tap into the opportunity of the real estate. Either you buying a piece of land and you're looking at keeping it aside for you to either want to sell or develop it later, or you are even trying to invest in a real estate investment through some of this real estate company. In all, you can build your funds. Like what we do in Boundless, for instance, we not only help or encourage our customers to make investments that can help them build on their wealth and their income, but we also make them know that they can do what we call land banking, which you buy a piece of land, allow it for some years, then you can say, okay, out of 3, I'm selling 1 to develop 1, then create commercial real estate from it and all that. But basically, real estate is still one of the best platforms. Anybody that is looking at investing his funds in order to beat inflation, because inflation rate these days is alarming, but nothing has been able to, no investment has been able to beat inflation like real estate is currently doing.
Dr. Jonathan Idowu, I must thank you for your time. MD/CEO Boundless Multi-Services Solutions Limited. Thank you very much for joining us on the show. We hope to have you again subsequently to discuss, of course, issues around the sector and the businesses and the money in this very important sector.
That's true. Thank you very much.
All right, it's a pleasure having you on the show. Let's